Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are looking at a 2019 SIHH release. Everyone forgot about the Code 1159 because that year's Royal Oak was just so good. This is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak self-winding reference 15500ST gray dial, stainless steel case, 41 millimeters in diameter, 10.5 millimeters thick, from lug to lug, 50.5 millimeters, but if we include the outermost extension, this downwardly rigid plot link, then the actual distance across the watch, the absolute distance across the wrist, is a beefier 53 millimeters. And I would recommend you consider this watch more like a 43 millimeter watch on the wrist. Since 2012, the 41 millimeter Royal Oaks have felt more like baby offshores than larger versions of the Jumbo. It's thin and the bezel is sloped, so you can wear it underneath the cuff, but I believe you need a wrist of at least 15 centimeters circumference to wear this watch well, because again, it wears like a 43 and you need to think of it that way. It is beautifully made, however, and substantial. On the wrist, AP's steel watch feels as solid as some brands' gold models. And a big part of that's down to the bracelet and its solidity. Just the bracelet to hand finish in steel takes about 9 to 11 hours, and that's just the bracelet. That's not the case, that's not the bezel, that's not the clasp. You can see that there's a lovely transitional bevel down the side of the individual links. The tolerances, and it is a tapered bracelet, but the tolerances, the step down, so subtle from link to link that I can see the taper, but I can't feel a jagged step down. It feels like a smooth curve. You can see that the ends of the little plot intermediate links, they are actually polished, and you can really only see that as you roll them through the light. So the detailing is exquisite. The satin finish is perfectly aligned from link to link. And you can see in the bracelet, the removable links here are fixed by screws, not pin sleeves, giving Audemars Piguet a leg up on the way Patek Philippe now builds its bracelets. The clasp feels solid enough to be on an offshore combination of satin finish and media blasting. You can see it's a sequential close, one side and then the other because the logo goes on top. Twin trigger release, very secure. The bracelet is fixed to the case using screws and bars. This is the better way to fix a bracelet or a strap to a case on a heavy and expensive watch. Screws and bars are much less likely to let go than spring bars, so advantage Audemars Piguet. Now you can see the degree of finishing on the case. The flanks have character lines that continue perfectly aligned through the bezel, the mid case, and then the separate case back, and you can see those character lines are perfectly aligned. The satin finish of the mid case is immaculate, and it breaks nicely from the diminishing taper of the polished bevel on the lug hood. The bezel, as it has since the first in 1972, slightly expresses the gasket between case and bezel. On the offshore, it's much more apparent. Here, it's just a small hairline sliver. The screw-down crown is hexagonal to remind you of the white gold bolts in the octagonal bezel. And by the way, here, a screw-down crown with 50-meter water resistance does make this watch surface swimmable. The Jumbo has a push-down crown. I do not consider it to be surface swimmable. The screw-down function makes the difference. The bezel, designed by Gerald Genta in 1972 to evoke a vintage diving helmet, is actually round inboard and a rounded out octagon on the outside. Now it has vertical satin finish on its top and a sharp break between the polished and rounded faces outboard. The bolts themselves, and they are bolts, not screws, are made of white gold, so you can see that warmer white gold tone in contrast to the silver of the steel, and then they're perfectly aligned all the way around. The dial is known as the Grande Tapisserie. There is a Petite and there is a Mega. The Mega Tapisserie is not made on a pantograph. That's what you'll find on the offshore. This and the Petite are made on a pantograph lathe, which is a 19th century mimicry engine that takes a large template and then recreates the pattern on a dial blank that becomes what you see here. This is one of the newer looks in the Royal Oak catalog. It is the gray dial. So you see the hobnails on the dial, thousands of individual points. You have the large hobnails, but then the interstitial texture that runs through the channels between them. It is beautifully made, and since 2012, AP makes this dial in-house. The hands, the logo, and the indices are white gold to avoid oxidation over time. And again, since 2012, AP has had a correct tone date disc. So if you have a gray dial, you get a gray disc, black dial, black disc, silver, and so on. That was not the case before. For 2000 2019, there are some changes. The big one is that automatic is banished from the dial, and it should be. You've bought the watch, it does not need to advertise itself to you. The indices have changed a little bit, and so have the hands. And there was a big change to the index over at 3 o'clock, but the big change is the cleaner dial. Automatic has been banished. You know it's an auto, and you can see as much on the reverse side. This is a new caliber, 4302, automatic winding, 70-hour power reserve compared to the previous, which was 60. It's got stop seconds, it's got a quick set date, it pivots on 32 joules, and it has a very robust structure as it's fairly thick and designed for sports watches, and that combines with a full balance bridge and a free sprung index for shock tolerance. Unlike the old model, which beat away at 21.6, this is a proper modern high beat rate, a 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it uses a ceramic rotor bearing for durability as well as efficiency. There's also handsome finishing of this rose gold rotor. You can see there are many tiny interior angles where two sharp bevels meet, creating that cleft line. There are bevels internally, and where they meet, you have that sharp break between their two planes. That's very difficult to do manually, but AP is doing it, and I'm happy to see that. A little bit less industrial than some of AP's more recent rotor designs. Of course, it is a bigger movement. It's now 32 millimeters in diameter. The old 3120 was 26.6, so you can see this movement now better fills up the case back, and the movement is a judicious blend of hand finishing and mechanical finishing, the likes of which I would compare favorably to Jaeger-LeCoultre or FP Journe. Reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the Royal Oak 15500 by night.